Now to the devastation in Syria and Turkey. Death toll climbing over 40, maybe even 50,000. Tens of thousands of people more will likely be found in the coming days. An absolutely tragic situation. But before all of this happened, Western sanctions dealt a crushing blow to the country of Syria. And our next guest, Kevork Almasian, is a Syrian journalist whose family is in Aleppo and has just written and produced videos specifically on why Western sanctions, removal of Western sanctions, is not even enough right now to help the people of Syria. Kevork joins us now. Kevork, I know you've not really slept in like 10 days. You've been organizing, trying to get out money and food and supplies to help the people of Syria. First, why removal of Western sanctions? That seems to be a major piece right now. People can't even donate money to Syria because of Western sanctions. Why the removal of that is not enough? Just take me through what you're experiencing right now.
Clayton, it was a really tough week for all Syrians. It was a huge devastation that inflicted upon the Syrian people after 12 years of war and draconian sanctions. This earthquake hit the hardest in the northern side of Syria, Aleppo, and also in the governorate of Jableh. We don't know yet the death toll, the correct death toll, because the Syrian side, the infrastructure was completely destroyed after this regime change war on Syria. And because of the sanctions, the Syrian side couldn't buy the necessary equipment, the necessary machinery, anything related to the health sector or to earthquakes, for example, during times of such emergency cases. I will give you an example, Clayton. The American sanctions and the European sanctions on Syria, they target any company, any third country company. So if you're in Bangladesh, if you're in Thailand, if you're in China, and you have a company there, and Syria wants to buy any basic material that can replace, for example, the water pumps, that can buy ambulances, that can buy any equipment that can be used in reconstruction or in the health sector or in the energy sector, is not allowed. So the United States comes, and the Europeans also come after any third country company, even if it's in Japan, anywhere around the world, and they tell them you're not allowed to sell any of these machineries to Syria, or we will sanction the company itself. So the companies were, although there is no legal basis for the Americans to bully these companies, but they are complying with these sanctions because they have business interests, right? So you cannot blame a company in China, although it is, for example, allied with Syria, that they don't want to deal with Syria because they have a huge business interests with the United States itself. So if you put it on a scale, these companies would prefer to do business with the United States and not with Syria, because Syria, in all cases, is a small country, and the trade exchange is very little compared to the United States. Now, after the earthquake, because there was a huge backlash, and I can assure you, Clayton, that there was a huge backlash on social media platforms. We have done a lot. We did pressure on the American administration that this is sadism. Like, imagine during these times there are still sanctions on Syria, and the American administration came under huge pressure. And in my opinion, they did the cosmetic, let's say, made a cosmetic decision, which is, okay, we are suspending some of the sanctions on Syria, and only for 6 months. That means all the talk that and for what they did, why did they suspend these sanctions? To deliver humanitarian aid. So our argument, which was, guys, you have to lift these sanctions so that we can deliver humanitarian aid, and the American side was saying, no, this is incorrect. We always exclude humanitarian aid from the sanctions, but this has proven to be wrong and false. And why the Americans suspended some of these sanctions if the humanitarian aid wasn't sanctions in the first place? You have to ask yourself this question. And despite that, this is not enough. I will tell you why. Because this is a very limited on suspension of these sanctions, and only for 6 months. And most of the major sectors in Syria, like, you're a government in Syria, and you have to provide fuel to your people. You have to provide food. You have to provide electricity and services. It's the job of the government to secure these basic necessities. And if you still sanction all the sectors of the Syrian government, how can the Syrian government function and deliver these basic necessities? For example, baby's milk, Clayton. Imagine that the baby's milk is there is a shortage of baby's milk in Syria, and Lebanese singer, and I will mention her name, Haifa Wahbi, she donated uh, lots of baby's milk now to Syria, and she sent it on her own expense so that the kids and the babies in Syria can drink milk. So this is the the conditions in Syria, that there is huge draconian sanction imposed in order to devastate the Syrian people, into extent that they would say, okay, I prefer the demon to replace the current government if this demon can secure me food, medicine, and my kids would survive during these times, right? This is the main goal of these sanctions. It was pretty obvious from the days of Yugoslavia sanctions, Iraq sanctions, Libya sanctions. They were all always meant against the people. And now uh, the American side, when they suspended these sanctions, you can make transactions to Syria, but not bank transactions, only through Western Union and MoneyGram that have branches in Syria, and only to your family members and to some individuals that have no links to any organization, or they don't work in the industry sector, etc. So you're able now to send like $100 to your family, but you can't make bank transactions, and you can't send to anyone. If my father works in the public sector in Syria, they would not allow this transaction
And
to
you've been
arrive in Syria.
and you've been trying to trying to raise money, trying to get these campaigns set up, and they've been shut down. Do I understand you correctly on that?
Yes, I can assure you, Clayton, that me and a lot of people, we launched crowdfunding campaigns, whether on GoFundMe and other platforms. They were all suspended because if you mention Syria, and even on PayPal, by the way, if you mention Syria, the transaction will be blocked. And the GoFundMe blocked our campaign for 5 days. So these 5 days were the most important time so that we can deliver funds to Syria in order to buy the equipment, right? Because there was the rescue, this is the rescue time. After 5 days, people already died under the rubble. Okay, and they unsuspended our campaign now after we submitted them document that says this funding will go to a French non-governmental organization in Syria, which has its registration number in France, and they have a branch in Syria. And only then they unsuspended. At the beginning, we submitted them a document that this funding will go to a Syrian non-governmental humanitarian organization, and they said no, you cannot send any funding to any Syrian organization. It should be non-Syrian. It should have its registration number outside of Syria. It should have its taxing number outside of Syria. And until we could like bring this document, after 5 days there is no alive person under the rubble anymore. So now we unsuspended this campaign, and we will deliver this aid to two organizations in Syria. One of them is Syria Unites Us in English, and the second one is We Are Superheroes. And they have they're working in Aleppo and in Jableh and in Hama, so the places that were hit by this earthquake. Maybe, guys, if you want to donate anything, even if it's $10, the campaign of the GoFundMe, probably Clayton, you put it in the description.
Yes.
We will deliver the funds. We will deliver the funds. Imagine, Clayton, we cannot even send this money through the banks. So 3 people here in Berlin, they have to go now to Syria on their own expense. They have to carry cash because each person can carry only 10,000 with them. So they have to carry cash in their hands and go to Syria and give it to these organizations, and we can get a bill and show to the people that we donated this money to this humanitarian organization.
This is awful. This is unbelievable. So PayPal, GoFundMe, these specific companies, these are the same ones, by the way, that shut down donations to truckers in Canada. There's a long laundry list of complaints against these companies. We on our show have been outspoken about canceling your PayPal account. If you still have a PayPal account, please, this is an example of the tyranny here that's in place. We will absolutely make sure we have links in the description for anyone that wants to donate to be able to help the people of Syria. So these rollback of sanctions is not enough. These small 6-month rollback of sanctions, because the major pieces are still in play, as you talk about, gasoline, all of those things. And it's been absolutely crushing for years for the people of Syria, right?
The UN Special Rapporteur, Dr. Professor Alena Duhan, she's specialized in reporting on the impact of these unilateral illegal sanctions on Syria. She mentioned all the sectors, from educational sector. Imagine students cannot go to school because there is no fuel for the buses to take them to school. There is no fuel to heat the schools. And because of the poverty that was inflicted on the Syrian people, 90% of the people are below poverty line because of these sanctions. Now, if you have a kid who is like 15 years old, the kids are going to work. They're going to beg in the streets. They're not going to schools, for example. You have the hospitals, Clayton. The government prioritizes 10 to 11 hours of electricity to the hospitals because this is the priority, right? You have to save lives. And imagine you have hospitals that have maximum 12 hours of electricity per day. And then when they have a surgery and the electricity is gone, they have to turn on the generators so that they can save the people undergoing surgery. And if there is no fuel to even turn on these generators, because the Americans occupy the Syria's oil fields in the east, on the eastern shore of the Euphrates. They say they are guarding it, right? Guarding it from who? They are exclusively holding this cart because they want to pressure on the Syrian government and tell them, look, we occupy your oil fields, we occupy your wheat fields, and now we have a card to play against you. And you know the Syrians aren't in a position to fight against the Americans, right? So there should be a popular demand in the United States. There should be pressure by the Americans. There should be more education to the Americans to know what their administration is doing. And this is not about Biden or Trump or Obama. All of them impose the same sanctions and even more. Trump imposed more, and then Biden comes is imposing more. And Biden now is planning to impose further sanctions on Syria. You know, under what title? They say that the Syrian government is enriching its economy by selling drugs in the region, which, in my opinion, is the most silliest excuse ever. I mean, the largest drug dealing cartel in the world is the CIA itself, and now they're accusing the Syrian government of dealing with drugs to finance the economy in Syria. And if they impose sanctions, look to this sadism, Clayton. If Biden imposes these sanctions, they will impose direct sanctions on the medical sector in Syria, because they say that the Syrian government is using the medical sector to produce drugs. And that means we have to impose now sanctions on the health sector directly, because indirectly they were already under sanctions and now they're targeting. What does that mean? We remember in the 90s when 500,000 children died in Iraq because of the sanctions. So I always say that the mindset that governed the United States for a long time, it's based on sadism. It's a psycho mentality that is inflicting so much pain on the people. And I don't say this out of exaggeration. We have studied these cases in different places and now in Syria, and we can see the direct consequences of these sanctions on the Syrian people. So my appeal to the Americans who are watching this video: send a letter to your representative, send them this video, talk to them, urge them to lift these sanctions. What has the Syrians done to the United States? Do Syria even pose a security threat to the United States? You guys are thousands of miles away from Syria. Syria has done nothing to the United States. It's just Israel that is pushing the American administration and telling it, no, Syria is a huge threat to the regional security. Syria is half of it is a rubble now. It doesn't pose any threat to anyone. We just want to reconstruct the country, because Syria was self-sufficient before the war in energy, in food, in medicine. Syria used to export medicine to the entire world. Syria used to export its cotton to the entire world. The best cotton in the world is in Syria. The best wheat in the world is in Syria. You know what the US did, Clayton, to the Syrian wheat? And I will show you how much psycho mentality is this. So in 2013, there is an institution in Syria called ICARDA, and in this ICARDA they were developing the genetics of the wheat. So they developed the genetics of a wheat, the genetic codes of a wheat that is so resistant against the bugs that the bugs come and eat this wheat, right? And the Americans, they had a problem in the United States in growing the wheat. So when these American-founded Islamists occupied that area, they took all the data and all the genetics of this genetic codes of this wheat, and they send it to the United States. And you can Google this, and you can be sure what I'm saying is true. And they solved this problem in the United States by stealing these codes, the genetic codes from Syria. And what did the Americans give Syria in return? The US aid, which is a CIA branch, they sent genetically modified wheat seed to the farmers in Syria, and they gave them this as a gift to the Syrian people so that we ruin and destroy our best wheat in Syria, the agricultural sector in Syria, and they're telling us we're helping the Syrian people, we're giving them humanitarian aid. So they stole our good wheat, and they're giving the farmers where they occupy now in the eastern shore of the Euphrates genetically modified wheat so that we destroy our own health and our own agricultural sector. This is sadism. How can you say anything except sadism?
No, it is absolute sadism. And you know, so thank you, Kevork, for what you're doing. I want all of our audience today, please share this video out with a member of Congress, a representative, member of the Senate. Share it with a family member. Try to educate other Americans about what the United States and Western countries are doing to Syria. Please, we've got to end these sanctions in that country. It is destroying. I mean, the country is already destroyed. Further pushing it into the Stone Ages right now. Please, please, please. We'll have links in the description below to donate, to help to the people, not just because of the earthquake, but because of these devastating Western sanctions. So, Kevork, thank you so much for always being a voice of reason in all of this. We appreciate it. I know it's incredibly difficult time. Thank you for taking a few minutes out to speak with us here on the show, and give our love from the Redacted audience to your family and to the people of Syria.
Thank you very much, Clayton, for this opportunity. And for those who want to donate, guys, you have to know the average salaries in Syria is $30. So imagine how much help you can present now to the Syrians if you donate just a $10 for an entire family.
Unbelievable. And we will too. Redacted will also be making big donations as well. So we'll have these links in the description, and please, please, please donate and help. Thank you so much, Kevork. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thanks so much, Kevork. We really appreciate it. And, you know, again, we'll have links in the description of this video. So please, if you want to donate $5, $10, whatever you can to help the people who've just been absolutely destroyed because of what's been happening with Western sanctions and this earthquake. So it's just really, really awful what the West has been doing here. So you can step up and help if you like. Again, the description will have those links for you to check that out. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.